The following is a production of Horse Player Now in conjunction with the Kentucky Thoroughbred Development Fund. The Keeneland Look Ahead podcast begins in 60 seconds.
This is the mecca of horse racing. This is where it all begins.
This is going to be an incredible year. We can't wait to get the spring meet going.
A last to first run in the Bluegrass La Cara.
Welcome you to the April Selected Horses and Racing Age Sale.
This is the premier horse racing sale.
You have a chance to make 5, 10, 100x.
It is Fall Stars weekend.
Ted Noffi to win the Glaber Rhetorical to win.
Welcome to the Keeneland Championship sale. I feel like it was meant to be.
The World Championship event. World-class racehorse. Flightline has won the Breeders' Cup Classic.
Keeneland always brings top-notch horses.
Come here and sell and bring $3.7 million doesn't feel real.
And with that, welcome into the Friday night preview of the Keeneland Look Ahead podcast. We are looking at Saturday's action, day number 6 of 15 coming up on Saturday, and the biggest pick 6 carryover that we've had so far this season. Looking forward to a little extra sauce on a 2-stakes Saturday as our carryover in the pick 6, $154,006. We talked about at the beginning of this week too, how historically week 2 can get you some crazy prices. We had a couple more today. Pick 6 started with a 45-1 shot win in the first race of the pick 6, I believe in race number 6 on the card, or race 5, and things just kind of snowballed from there. We had some upsets. We had Cy-Fair upset in the first stakes race in the Limestone. Then, of course, it was a terrible trip for Notable Speech when he was upset in the Maker's Mark Mile. So by the time we got to the last race of the pick 6, it was already guaranteed to be a carryover, and nearly every combination was paying on 4 of 6. It was that kind of sequence today at Old Keeneland. Zulu Kingdom, hats off to him, winner of the Maker's Mark Mile today. Wire-to-wire fashion, really tipped himself in the paddock. He looks sensational pre-race today. Sometimes the eyes are worth putting on the horses before they go to the track, and certainly Zulu Kingdom today looked apart. 3,000th career win for his trainer, Chad Brown, coming in that Grade 1 stakes. Really good effort from him today. Brian Lynch continued to have a really good meet. All of his stuff is firing, including on the turf. Slayed the day, pulled the upset, a bit of an upset, in the Limestone Stakes. Again, Cy-Fair returning from the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf Sprint victory. Her first start at 3. She ended up finishing 3rd in there. And again, the big disappointment of the day, you would have to say for sure, was Notable Speech, coming back from that Breeders' Cup turf win, Breeders' Cup mile win, I should say, and running today in just a traffic-filled trip there. I believe ended up 4th under the line in there. Notable Speech probably deserved better. William T. Buick did not give him a classic Buick ride in this one, but we'll see him again, I'm sure, hopefully all things equal. With a cleaner trip next time, Notable Speech, we can expect better things out of. But not good for the Breeders' Cup champions in action today at Keeneland on Friday. 0 for 2 between those two, 3rd and 4th place finish. Another good day for Rusty Arnold. Picked up another victory. It just seems like every day Rusty's just adding another score, having one of the better meets he's had in quite a few years. And what about the names in the winner's circle today that we're just not used to seeing at Keeneland? 3 different, that I know at least off the top of my head, 3 different first-time winners at Keeneland. Kenan LaRose, the trainer who took over for Tom Amos, got a victory today on the card. Dylan Machado got a victory today. First win at Keeneland for Dylan Machado, as well as jockey Danny Sheehy got his first win here at Keeneland. And William Anton Georgie won. He was the one who pulled the 45-1 upset. Billy Anton Georgie hadn't won a race at Keeneland since fall of 2010. 16 years ago. So there were some names we are not used to seeing in the winner's circle. 2 that got into the winner's circle in consecutive races, interestingly enough. The big $173 winner to end the card on Thursday, if you recall. Eric Foster, the trainer, Gabriel Saez, the jock. They came right back and won the first race on the card today. Just kind of set the tone for a little bit of a wild day and a wild week, as we thought might happen in week number 2 at Keeneland. Last year, 4 different winners that paid $50 or more during week 2. We are kind of right on pace for that, with still 2 more days of racing left for the weekend. We will talk about the Saturday card coming up with 11 races on the program. Keeneland Turf Pick 3, of course, in action. Late Pick 3, all the different wagers, including an additional middle Pick 4 on an 11-race card. So we've got a lot to talk about. Let's get to it. Here is the snapshot of the card for Saturday's action at Keeneland. We're going to start things off in race number 1 with the early Pick 5. I've got a key play right off the get. In race number 2, we've got a Pick 4 play starting in there, races 2 through 5. That middle Pick 4, races 4 through 7, added into the card when we have 11 races. That goes as race number 4. The Pick 6 on an 11-race card begins in race 6, final 6 on the program, $154,006 in the carryover for the Pick 6. Let's dig into that key play to start the Pick 6 sequence for me, key play number 2. We will go to the late Pick 5 starting in race number 7. Also, the Keeneland Turf Pick 3 will get underway in race number 7. Races 7, 9, and 11 will be the Keeneland Turf Pick 3 races. That includes the Jenny Wiley in the 9th. Late Pick 4 is going to start in the 8th race. The Jenny Wiley, aforementioned, starts the Keeneland Turf, or not the Keeneland Turf Pick 3. It's middle leg of the Keeneland Turf Pick 3. We'll start the $3 late Pick 3 wager. Interesting $3 late Pick 3 with the Jenny Wiley, the Lexington, and then the finale. Final race on the card, the 11th, will be the Toyota Super High 5 race. No carryover in the Super High 5. The Turf Pick 3 wraps up in there, and my last key play on the card. So we're bookending the card early and late with key plays here at Keeneland. First post coming up at 1 o'clock. Forecast is for another mid-70s day. Fast and firm conditions. Should be an excellent day for racing. Let's talk about our first race play of the day, starting off with our key plays here. Race number 1 is maiden claiming 30,000 going long on the main track. And interesting stat, digging through the databases between BetMix and our free online stats database at Keeneland.com. Noticed a bunch of winners making their first start of the year in these maiden claiming races. And I want to kind of quantify it. Maiden claimers going long on the main here. We've had 8 of them win over the years, which is a really good number out of just 33 starters who hadn't started in more than 100 days. So horses coming off long layoffs, coming back here in these kind of races, 24% wins and a 202 ROI for every dollar bet, doubling your money. Well, I like number 9, West Coast Dream, and that's what kind of put me on the, well, can a horse win off a layoff coming into these maiden claiming races? Turns out they can. They do, and they do at very nice prices. West Coast Dream is 6-1 in the morning line. The 9 is going to be my top play in here. California Connections, trainer Michael McCarthy, jockey Juan Hernandez. He's in town to ride this weekend with Santa Anita off. So I'm going to start off with my key play of the day right away in race number 1. It's going to be the 9, West Coast Dream. This horse debuted 3rd at Ellis Park back in August. Has been off a long time, but a couple good Churchill Downs works coming into this one. I think McCarthy will have this one ready. And again, maiden claimers going long on the main track. You can win off the bench. We've seen it before in the past. We're hoping it happens again. West Coast Dream. Others in here to consider. I've got the 5 in the mix in here, that being Lexico, and the 6, Nuts and Bolts. Nuts and Bolts trained by Kenny McPeak. McPeak's won more of these maiden claiming route races here at Keeneland on the main track in the spring than any other conditioner. He's got the 6 in here, Nuts and Bolts. Certainly you have to consider that. Joe Sharp is another guy who's done pretty well with horses going long on the main here at Keeneland, but we'll talk about him at 1 1/8 a little bit later on the program. So I've got it 9-6-5 or 9-5-6 in race number 1. 5 and 6 are mixed in there with all the top, all of our handicappers across the top of their pages. The 9 West Coast Dream, only mentioned one other time by Kim as her second choice, but 5, 6, and 9 seem to be the way to get through race number 1. But I'm heavily leaning on the 9 in here. So 9 over the 5, 6. If you want to work in anybody else underneath, I thought the 8 and the 1 were horses that were considerations for the exotics. The 8, another for Kenny McPeak in here. McPeak's got 2 starters, the 6 and the 8. Both should be around the same price in that 4 to 5 to 1 range, according to Nick Tamero's morning line. We'll start things off with one of our key plays in race number 1. Let's go to the second race on the program for Keeneland's Saturday action. It will start the early pick 4 in this spot. Another maiden claimer, this one at 7/8 of a mile. Full field of 12. We got 4 also eligibles. You want to be up kind of into the mix in these races historically, but don't worry about shopping for a little bit of a price. In race number 2, in these maiden claiming 7 furlong races, we've had 37 of them in spring meets at this distance. Average winner more than 6 to 1, almost 6.5 to 1. Favorites way underperform at 11 for 37, so way under 33%. You get a chance to make a little bit of a price in one of these races, and I'm going to take another shot at a price here in race number 2. It's the one Frosted Mug, 8-1 in the morning line. Going to be my top choice in here. Nobody else has Frosted Mug on top. A couple third place tabs for that one. Luis Saez, just a superior 7-furlong jockey here at Keeneland. He rides this trip better than anyone, and statistically, it shows in his numbers. Ian Wilkes is having a really good meet here with limited starters at Keeneland. I think Frosted Mug second off a little bit of a break and layoff, and now moving from the synthetic back to the dirt. Had one third effort at Churchill that wasn't bad, going a mile for 30. This is a little easier spot in at the $20,000 basement level here at Keeneland. Horses from Turfway have won more of these 7-furlong maiden claimers than the other circuits. It's a pretty even spread, but the Turfway horses have definitely held their own. And one thing about the Turfway runners, we talked about them struggling opening week, right? I think the Turfway horses had one win in the first 2 days, maybe none, and got their first win on Wednesday. But as we get a little more blue color and get a little deeper into the meet, we're going to see the Turfway horses have a lot more success. Today, 4 winners from Turfway Park on today's 10-race card on Friday at Keeneland. So for all the struggles the Turfway horses had through the first 4 days of the meet, Day 5 today, they really picked it up, had a big day. So don't be afraid to take a Turfway horse in the right spot. Don't force them into some places where they might be overmatched. But here at a basement level, maiden claiming 7-furlong race, don't be afraid of the Turfway horses at all. I'm going Frosted Mug as my top choice in race number 2. As for the other handicapper, Standard Deduction, the 3, top choice by Tom and Kim. Beale Street Boy, top choice for Scott. He's got the 3 in there in the second spot. I've got it 1, 3, 6. You can see the 3 and 6, all the rage with all the other handicappers in this particular spot. So if we can beat the favorite in here with the 1, maybe use the 1 in there with the 3, 6 as far as the logical horses then who could potentially be in the mix as well. Again, do not settle on short prices in these races. Historically, 11 for 37 on the favorites. They underperform. Average winner almost 6.5 to 1. So juicy potential in race number 2. Race number 3, next up on the card. We don't get a lot of stats and trends to talk about in this category. Third race in the program, a rarely run race, 1.125 miles starter allowance on the main track. We've only had 4 of these in spring meets going back on the dirt era. So favorites have won 2 of the 4. 3 of the 4 have been won by horses 7-2 or less. Generally speaking, starter allowance races do play formful, not only at Keeneland, but at other tracks around the country. Starter allowances have a minimum level to get eligible in. And once a horse gets good and kind of dropped into a right class level and is eligible for some of these starter allowance races, they tend to run out winning streaks. And that's why you see a really decent percentage of favorites winning in starter allowance kind of races. I would imagine that race number 3 is going to be rather formful, and the 4 Money Run is the 5-2 morning line favorite. And I'm not going to try to beat that one here in race number 3. I think Money Run is the right one. 2 starts back, this horse went 1.125 miles at Oaklawn, won that day. 3 starts back, won 1.125 miles at Oaklawn, went to the front, won that day. Didn't run well last time out, running 4th of 8, kind of got beat up a little bit at Colonial Downs on a good track. But the last 2 times going 1.125 miles on a fast track, right to the front, victorious for trainer Peter Miller, Flavian Pratt, former West Coast rider, reuniting with Peter Miller, whom he rode for some out in Southern California. Money Run should control this race towards the front. There is other speed in this race, and if you're going to beat the 4 Money Run, it's probably because of the pace. The 4 is going to get hooked maybe by 3 King of Hollywood to the inside, non-fungible. The 5's got some pace. The 6 Fountain Run might also be able to get up there in the mix. I wasn't wild about any of the closers, though, to any strength in any real degree, and I think Money Run's just really locked in at this starter allowance kind of level. Money Run and Fountain Run, the 4 and the 6 are both by Run Happy, and you think, well, Run Happy, a sprinter, champion sprinter, but he's actually had 7 starters run 1.125 miles here at Keeneland, and the Run Happies in 7 starts here at Keeneland have 2 wins and 2 second-place finishes. 4 for 7 exacted with 2 wins when Sire Run Happy has a horse go 9 furlongs here at Keeneland. So the 4 Money Run, the 6 Fountain Run, both could be effective at this trip at Keeneland, and certainly they both have some races on their resume at 1.125 miles that give you the sense that they'll play in this particular spot. The 4 more so than the 6. The 6 backed up the 1.125 miles at Turfway on the synthetic, but that speed should carry a little bit better at Keeneland than it does at Turfway. And of course, Money Run already proven with 2 9-furlong wins in the last 3 starts at Oaklawn. I've got it 4, 7, and 2 in race number 2. And again, starter allowance races are race number 3. I don't expect to see any big prices here. Money Run, top choice, clear across the way. All 4 handicappers have that runner on top. I've got it 4, 4-7-2. That's the exact same order for Tom, same order for Kim, and Scott shakes it up with 4-2-7. This looks like a very straightforward handicapping race. If you have it different, you're probably going to get paid based on the public handicappers all being in pretty much virtual lockstep here in race number 3. So we go from the third race on the card, starter allowance horses going 1 mile and 1/8 to race number 4. Fourth race on the card is a maiden special weight for the fillies 3 and up, fillies and mares in here. And we don't get too many elder maiden special weight races here in the spring meet. We've had 16 of them in the sprint ranks over the years. Race number 4 is a race that's produced 8 out of 16 winning favorites and a very strong speed bias in these maiden special weight races for the older fillies and mares. When they sprint here at Keeneland, those 16 races, the average winner is actually a neck in front after the first half mile. There are very, very few profiles of distance in Classic Keeneland where the average winner is going to be in front after the opening half mile. Happens rarely. It does in this particular case. So I would expect you want to kind of be right up into the mix here in race number 4, going 6.5 furlongs. You've got a little bit of a mix of first-time starters and experienced horses in this particular spot. The Gulfstream horses have won 5 of the 16 in these Elder Maiden Special sprints in the spring, 2 of them first-time starters. So experienced horses have a 14-2 edge in these races if you're handicapping for experience and the importance of that. At 6.5 furlongs, maybe you could get a firster to pop in there. Certainly as they go a little bit longer, 7/8 and farther, you want to rely a bit more on the experience. But She Won't Budge, the 4 is an even money morning line favorite, and I'm not very creative in this particular spot. Yes, she's been away since last May. Brad Cox has brought 4 horses back in similar spots to this in Keeneland in the spring on the dirt, Elder Maiden Specials, off of these kind of 100-plus day layoffs. Of the 4 he's brought back, 3 have been winners. She Won't Budge will be ready to go. Brad Cox has them ready to go in these kind of spots. She was third here in the fall meet or in the spring meet last year when running behind Clico, who's gone on to become a pretty good graded stakes type filly. So by Army Mule, She Won't Budge will love it here at Keeneland. Again, has already run over the track and ran decently third last year. Army Mule, what stats do you listen to this? 24% winners on the Keeneland dirt. 25 starters, so a decent sample size. 24% winners for Army Mule. 40% of his starters finishing the exacta. She Won't Budge, I think, probably going to be the one in here at a fairly short price. Even money in the morning line. 8, Rockin' Rambo. There's not a lot of great options in this particular spot. Rockin' Rambo did run third over 7/8 of a mile here in the fall. This will be the shortest trip for this one on dirt. Has been going longer in recent dirt starts down at Oaklawn. Pretty chalky in here. I think we've got some prices later on the card. We've got a good price in the first and second. But I think as we hit this middle part of the program here, the middle part of the early pick 5, races 3 and 4, they look pretty straightforward to me. She Won't Budge, top choice for me, for Kim, and for Scott. Second choice for Tom. Tom is going to give the rookie Pinto a chance in here, and I think this is probably one worth giving a look at. As for Pinto, first-time starter, like we said, the first-time starters don't win a lot in this particular category, 2 out of the 16 races offered. But when you got Sire Nyquist and a good first-time starting trainer like Norm Cassie, Nyquist wins 23% with his offspring here at Keeneland. $1.33 ROI for every dollar bet and 113 starters. So when you're showing a 33% profit after 100 starters plus, that's pretty significant. The Nyquist like it here at Keeneland. Expect Pinto to like the racetrack here. Of the last 4 first-time starters that Nyquist has had over this racetrack, 2 have won. One paid $3, another one paid $47. If a first-time starter is to pop in here, maybe it will be Pinto. I've got it 4, 8, 7, and 9, the way I'm going to line it up in race number 4, but certainly the 4, She Won't Budge, going to be the top play in there. But a short price. Maybe we're looking multi-race wagers or some deeper exotics in there to get away from the short price. Let's go now to race number 5 on this 11-race program. 5th race will end the early pick 4 and will end the early pick 5. No new wagers starting in this race. Race number 5 is a split division with race number 11 of a maiden special weight for the 3-year-olds on the turf at 1 mile and 1/16. Split division just simply means there were so many horses that entered this race when it was in the condition book, which is the menu that the horsemen look at to see which races are going to be offered. So many horses entered this race that they said, look, we can split it and run it as 2 different races. So races 5 and 11 have the same kind of conditions. Notice what happens in race 5. Maybe it'll apply to your handicapping in race number 11 a little bit later. But certainly the stats and trends to these maiden specials on the turf here at Keeneland in the spring lean heavily to the Gulfstream Park runners. 99 of them in our database to this point. 46 of the 99 winners came from Gulfstream Park. Next best, Fairgrounds with 14, 46 to 14, a huge edge. You want to look for the Gulfstream Park horses, to me, in races 5 and 11. Statistically, that's where the lean is. You got to be able to make a case for them as a handicapper, of course, and not just lean on the locations they come from. But I think number 12, Wrathchild, is one that we can make a good case for. Brendan Walsh trains this horse, Wrathchild. I know the post on the outside might be difficult if the trip doesn't work out, but 2 times in 2024 in similar races, Brendan Walsh had maiden breakers here at Keeneland in the spring meet, and last year also had one as well. So 3 winners in similar spots over the last 2 spring meets for Walsh. Warfront gets great numbers with his horses here on the turf at Keeneland, and this horse simply had a mistimed move in the debut at Gulfstream Park. If you look at the splits in that race, 48 to the half, 110-4 to 6 furlongs. They went 22-4, a wild third quarter in there. And if you look at the running lines, this horse went from 7th to 2nd during that time and then flattened out under Irad Ortiz. Flat out a mistimed move. If you'd have waited and made the last move, you'd already broken the maiden condition by now. Brendan Walsh turns away from Irad, back to Tyler Gaffleone. Not sure of the situation that day, why Irad was riding and not Tyler, who rides a lot first call for Brendan Walsh. I'm not saying he pulled the plug on Irad for that ride. Maybe it was just a situation where Gaffleone wasn't available. But Tyler teaming up with Brendan Walsh here with the 12 Wrathchild, going to be my pick in race number 5. Again, the Gulfstream horse is the way you want to lean in these particular spots. 3 Comprehensive, 4 Magical Factor, 6 Minotaur also come from the Gulfstream races. Comprehensive, the 3, the 5-2 morning line favorite. Brian Lynch could do nothing wrong, it seems like. He had a great meet at Gulfstream Park. Then he cooled off a little bit at the end of the Gulfstream meet, and now at the beginning of this Keeneland meet, he's back sizzling again. Had another winner today in the stakes, in the Limestone Stakes on the turf. Comprehensive is one, though, despite being as hot as he was at Gulfstream, went 0 for 4 at that meet going back to December, but what a couple close losses he had. A nose, a neck, and another neck away from victory 3 different times. But Comprehensive doesn't have to win, seems to find a way to get beat, and I think we can get a better price. Wrathchild on the outside, going to be my top choice. Number 11, Provider for a Peter Urtenbart. It's had pretty good luck here in week 2 of Keeneland meets in the past. He's got 1 win so far this week, Peter Urten. This one comes in from the Fairgrounds. Flattened out a little bit late at a mile and a 16th. And from the 11 hole, I don't know about that flattening out style to get the victory, but I think the 11 Provider can get a piece of this underneath. But I'm in here on Wrathchild, the 12. Also top pick for Tom Leach. Magical Factor, the 4, picked by Scott. The 10, Newman, picked in here by Kim Nelson. As for Scott's top pick in here, Magical Factor, the 4, Son of the Factor, has been horseshoes at Gulfstream over the course of the winter for Woodbine-based Rachel Halden. Comes off a 5th place finish last time, giving away a little bit at the end. And if you look at these horses in the past performance lines, in turf races, you're trying to find the best finisher. The horses have got to finish on the turf because there's not kickback like there is on the dirt course, where most horses get discouraged and don't run through the stretch and they run their race early and not late. Here on the turf, horses run straight through the wire in a lot of cases, and a lot of these horses in this particular race just flatten out. I mean, if you look at the past performance lines as they run across your past performance page, 3rd, 5th, and they end worse than they were throughout the course of the running. A lot of these horses in the race, you can draw a line between that next to last call and the final finish call, and you're just going to see a pattern repeating of horses who just flatten out at the end of the races. That's why I think if Wrathchild just times this move right, I'm willing to give up the outside post, because that was a heck of a move this horse made. I just think it was at the wrong time in the race into some seriously fast fractions down there at Gulfstream. So I'll go with the 12 in race number 5. That was almost one of my key plays on the card. I was kind of juggling between that one and some of the others as for my top 3. But I like Wrathchild quite a bit here in this particular spot. But you've got to respect the Brian Lynch runners. Everything he sends out there right now is running really, really well. Brian Lynch with the 3 Comprehensive. So 12-3, the way it shakes out for me in race number 5. If you're playing the multi-race wagers, I think that's probably a situation where you can look at those 2 and go too deep in here. The 3 Comprehensive is going to be forwardly placed with an inside post. The 12 Wrathchild is going to be farther off the pace and try to make a rally under Gaffleone from the outside draw. So I wouldn't suspect that these 2 horses are going to compromise each other in any way, nor should the pace situation compromise both of them. I always talk about this, but it's worth reminding, and for the newer viewers out there who don't listen to the podcast regularly, when you have 2 deep in a situation in a multi-race bet, I like to have divergent running styles. That way, one bad pace scenario doesn't wipe out both horses. and one favorable doesn't necessarily just help one of the horses or both of the horses. You want different running styles when you're going too deep in there and doubling the cost of your ticket. Let's go to race number 6 next up here on the program at Keeneland. Race number 6 is a mile and an eighth on the main track here. Non-winners at 2 lifetime. This is a race where I've got a lot of good options written at the top of race number 6. Pick 6 starts here, 154,000. This is going to be one of my key plays of the day because I think we have a lot of good options. So I think we can hold ourselves a more than fair price in here. Race number 6 is, again, that second level allowance. Let's go to the picks here across the page and see how our handicappers line this one up. Conquest Warrior, the 7 is going to be the favorite in here. 9-5 in the morning line for trainer Steve Asmussen. This horse is picked on top by Tom and Scott. A second choice by me, third choice by Kim. No doubt that this horse should be the favorite in here off the past form. 4th in the Florida Derby. Had a good comeback race and a fast time down at Fairgrounds, going a mile and a 16th when running second in the return. City of Light, a good sire, a really good sire, positive ROI over the racetrack here. $1 Million 5-year-old has only run 5 times in his career, though. Do you want to take a very short price on Conquest Warrior in here? I don't know if the trust factor is super high on him, having just the one start in the past 2 years. So I thought there were other options in here that we could go for. And really, I love Sire Curlin here at Keeneland. And when you talk about going a mile and an eighth, a sire like Curlin is just right in his wheelhouse. He's got the 3 in here, Original Sin, and the 4 Curlin's Malibu. Curlin's a 20% winner here over the main track at Keeneland. And when you talk about going 9 furlongs, he has had so much success with his horses stretching out to this kind of trip. Original Sin, to me, is going to be the top play in here. Last time out at Fairgrounds was bet to favoritism. Jostled at the start, got thrown out of the game, and never got back into it. 2 starts ago, a winner. But the fact that he got in trouble last time and goes from being a favorite to being an 8-1 morning line shot, I think that swings the value in your favor, and that's why I like Original Sin in here. We've got Conquest Warrior, who's going to get bet a lot, a really flashy-looking resume, flashy kind of horse, but the reliability isn't super high in there. So I'm going to take my shot with Original Sin in here, and that's why I think it's one of the key plays of the day. I think we have a slightly vulnerable favorite. We've got a horse who's going to be an overlay price, and I'm wondering about a bounce with number 2, Authentic Strike. Similar to Conquest Warrior, Authentic Strike, the 2, was off a year and a half, came back and ran hard in that race at Oaklawn, and it was a fast race. Same thing with Conquest Warrior. Comes out of a fast race off a long layoff. Will these horses bounce? They both ran in February, so they took March off. Their conditioners did a good job. Rudy Brisset with the 2, Steve Asmussen with the 7, of giving their horses a little bit more time. But they could potentially bounce, which means regress off a big effort after a long layoff like that. So I think there's some vulnerability with the 2 and the 7. That's why I'm on the 3 in here. Original Sin is the value play. 8-1 in the morning line. If we can get a price like that, we'll be very happy on this Saturday card. So that's race number 6. We're starting to pick 6 off in that spot. I do think that we could look at the 4 Curlin's Malibu is what we want. We also want to consider by Curlin. Starting the pick 6 off. 3 and 7 for sure I would want to use. You could talk me into using the 3, the 7, and the 4 at a price as well to get things started in the pick 6. But there are a lot of good options. I don't think that race kind of locks down to a single unless you have a strong opinion. I've got a good value opinion on the 3 Original Sin, but from a likeliest winner kind of situation, which is what you're looking for when you're playing the pick 6, I don't think the horse is a single for pick 6 purposes. Let's go next to the 7th race on this 11-race Saturday card at Keeneland. First level allowance race, a mile on the turf. This is a race where you want to find finishers, but I like the breast late pace figures when I'm trying to find a horse from off the pace, and there just aren't really good late pace figures in this race. There are no super strong finishers. There's some horses who come from behind, but they haven't been particularly fast when they've done it, and they kind of got the setup when they have been successful. So who's going to be able to handle this race in terms of finishing ability? I don't think any of them are going to finish particularly strong. That's why I went to the 7 Noble Confessor as the top pick in this spot, as race number 7 is going to kick off the late pick 5 and the Keeneland Turf pick 3. In a race where nobody wants to really finish that strong, take the speed, and Noble Confessor is going to go to the front. Second start off a layoff for this one, got a little tired on the back end of the race down at Gulfstream, set fast fractions that day under Kendrick Carmouche. Should get a little more relaxation under Tyler Gaffley Concepcion, who asked a little less than Carmouche, obviously, in the early part of a race. I think Noble Confessor can fall into the lead in this particular spot. And again, with nobody really wanting to close in here, I think the horse who sets the tempo and sets the table has a good chance of going wire to wire. Noble Confessor, 3-1 in the morning line. We look at these mile races, turf mile allowance races at Keeneland first level, 44 of them in past spring meets. 16 of the winners came from Gulfstream Park preps. 17 of them were making their first start of the year. This is one of these profiles where horses who have been off a long time can come back and run really well at Keeneland historically. In fact, the last 21 races that we've seen like this, a mile allowance first level in the spring at Keeneland, the last 21 times, 11 of the winners were making their first start of the year. If you're looking for that angle, the 3 Sicilian Defense, the 4 Ciro DiMarzio, and the 5 Master of Light are all making their first starts of 2026. I'm not looking at Arkhipov the 6th with a lot of affection in here. This is a horse I think can run well for Chad Brown, but I don't think has to run well. 8-5 in the morning line, was a 1-2 favorite last time out and won easily down at Tampa Bay Downs, but didn't finish that strong. I mean, I know it looks like on the running lines that this horse blew everybody away, but 77 Brisk late pace figure was not particularly strong. And if you look, it took almost 26 seconds the last quarter mile. I think Arkhipov got away with just beating a bad bunch down at Tampa Bay last time. And so I think this horse is a bit of a false favorite. I'm going to try to beat him in here. I'm going 7 Noble Confessor on top. Sicilian Defense, the 3, is the horse off the layoff that I like best in here. Had a terrible post the last time at Keeneland in the spring meet last year. Cherie DeVaux's horses are running decently at the current meet. They're not lighting it on fire like they have in some past meets here at Keeneland, but they're running fairly well. So Sicilian Defense, the 3, would be the other one that I'm interested in. But Noble Confessor picked by 3 of the 4 handicappers on top. I think we're all looking at the same thing. Not a lot of speed in here. Let's go to the front, see what we can do with Noble Confessor. To the 8th race we go next up, and we roll on through the pick 6. We get closer to our stakes double coming up in races 9 and 10. The 8th race on the card is a 7-furlong maiden special weight for 3-year-old fillies. We've had a decent number of these at 7 furlongs over the years, 39 of them, in fact. Favorites are 15 for 39, which is a pretty good number. But 6-1 average payout on these races. So it's either a feast or a famine in terms of prices. In fact, we've seen 4 winners in these kind of spots out of 39 races pay 20-1 or more. So 1 out of 10 of these have paid 20-1 bombs. So either something short or something really long seems to be the way these races turn out, like race number 8. Maiden special here typically will favor at 7/8 of a mile horses with some experience, but I fell into a first-time starter. Horses with experience have won 33 of the 39. So about 1 in 6, 1 in 7 of these races is won by a first-time starter. I do like a first-time starter in here, La Rascasi, the horse number 10 in this particular spot. So as we go to the handicapper selectors box, it's easier just to say I like the 10 in this particular race. I'll go 10, 12, and 3. The 12, Al Gadir, top choice for Scott. 7, Divine Passion for Tom. The 2, Arcana, picked for Kim. So 4 handicappers in this race, 4 different picks on top. And really, when you look at some of the other horses underneath, number 3, Right Timing, one that quite a few people have to get into the mix, 2nd or 3rd. That's another Chad Brown training. Right Timing's the 5-2 morning line favorite in this spot. I think maybe a little vulnerable. This is another one that Chad won with at Tampa last time, or almost won with, ran 2nd, beaten a half length, was 4-5 that day. Now, got beat by a horse named Chat-A-Lot, so I looked up Chat-A-Lot, wasn't familiar with the runner. Horse came back and ran 2nd in an allowance race at Tampa, and is 1 for 6 lifetime at this point. So I don't think Right Timing, that 2nd place finish, wasn't beaten by anything special. And if the horse couldn't win an allowance at Tampa the next start out, probably not Keeneland kind of caliber a runner that beat Right Timing last time. Not that Right Timing can't find the right field. There's not a lot here in the past performances amongst the horses who have already run. So if I think Right Timing might be a little vulnerable in here, and I do, looking at that company line, and the other horses who have run really haven't done that much to excite me, that's why I ended up with the first-time starter in here, number 10, La Rascasi. This horse is by Authentic, working really well, $750,000 purchase. Will Walden has a tremendous percentage with first-time starters, and I think we're going to get a fair price with Axel Concepcion named to ride. You don't put a big money rider on here, it might help the price in here. First-time starter, good-looking set of works at Turfway. Also got to work over the track here to ready for the career debut. I'll take the 10 in here, not an overwhelming opinion. The 12, Al Gadir, is probably one we need to keep a good eye on. This is a second-time starter. Debuted third at Churchill in the fall, finished third in there. Majestical ran second. A horse we've seen do some pretty good things since then. So the gun runner filly in here, Al Gadir, probably pretty well meant. So I've got it 10, 12, 3. I'm going to try to get by 2 deep in the multi-race wagers in here. I'll take one experienced horse, one horse from off the and one horse who is a first-time starter. Also, I expect the 10 to show some speed based on that 47 gate drill at Turfway. The 10 didn't show speed, or the 12 didn't show speed in the debut. So we're getting 2 different running styles there, I think, in with the 10 going to the front and 12 coming from off the pace. I'll go 2 deep in race number 8, that maiden special weight sprint going 7/8 of a mile. As we regather and get set for race number 9, it is the Jenny Wiley Stakes feature race on this program. It'll also start the $3 late pick 3, $3 minimum late pick 3 on races 9, 10, and 11. Includes 2 stakes on Saturday. Keeneland Turf Pick 3 wraps up in the 11th, so this will be the middle leg of the Keeneland Turf Pick 3 in the Jenny Wiley Stakes. Field of grade 1 fillies and mares going at it in this one. 10 of them have entered. 2 for trainer Chad Brown. He's got dynamic pricing in here. The 5. He's got the 10 Suggesta. Chad Brown today picked up his 3,000th career victory. He won the grade 1 race on the card with Zulu Kingdom, winning the Maker's Mark Mile. He'll try to go back-to-back in grade 1s in successive days here at Keeneland, and he's doing it in a race, the Jenny Wiley, in which he's had a lot of success. Trainer Chad Brown's won this race 5 of the last 7 years and 6 times overall. Suggested the outside, though, I don't know if this one's got the finishing punch. A little bit flat late in some of the races, and from an outside post and being more of a miler, I think the mile and a 16th, the outside trip here, makes Suggested the more vulnerable of the 2 Chad Brown trainees. Dynamic pricing is a better price on Nick Tamero's morning line at 6-1. Comes off the layoff. A horse definitely geared up for the mile and a 16th. A horse who had a little bit of trouble, obviously, in the First Lady. Didn't run a great race here in the fall, but prior to that was really in good form at Saratoga. Probably likes the ground on the firmer side, and this is a horse I think could get that kind of ground, although has won on yielding surfaces as well. But the turf is certainly firming up here at Keeneland over the last week or so. Dynamic pricing certainly one to consider in here as well. But Lush Lips, the 7, is the morning line favorite. I think she's the one to beat in this particular spot. 17 times we've got races of the Jenny Wiley in our database at Keeneland.com. 8 winning favorites in the 17 races, although the last 2 years, 25-1 and 6-1 upsets in this Jenny Wiley Stakes. But Lush Lips, to me, is the one to beat. She can sit second in a race where it looks like the speed in here is simply going to be Aussie Girl is going to go to the front, and then whoever sits second could get a first over trip in here. I think it's the 7 Lush Lips. She beat older horses last time out in the Honey Fox. She beat the 3-year-old fillies as one of the top 3-year-old turf fillies in the country last year, not only in the Queen Elizabeth II Cup here at Keeneland over the course, but in the Mrs. Revere at Churchill. She's really good. Brendan Walsh, Tyler Gaffalione. I like the way she finishes up races. Lush Lips, to me, is the play in the Jenny Wiley Stakes. As for the other handicappers, as we look across the way, Lush Lips is my pick, as well as Kim. Tom's going to go with Suggesta, and Scott's going out on the island here with the other Brendan Walsh. He's got the one Expensive Queen in here coming off back-to-back wins, one at Gulfstream, one at Fairgrounds last time in the Alstall Senior Memorial Stakes. So Expensive Queen coming off 2 straight wins, trying to make it 3 for 4. That's the Brendan Walsh, who's going to be a bigger price under Saez, 8-1 in the morning line. Tyler Gaffalione's on the 5-2 favorite Lush Lips for Brendan Walsh. I'll take the 7 in here. 7 over the 5, dynamic pricing, the better price of the Chad Brown trainees. And in terms of a pick 6 play, I'm singling here. I really do think that Lush Lips will get the job done. But I do like the exacta play in this particular spot. Destiny d'Oro, certainly one to keep an eye on as well. But it's all about Lush Lips for me in race number 9. I believe we've got a little video, too, for that race. We do. So let's go take a listen in here. Destiny d'Oro is a Brad Cox trainee in this particular spot. Destiny d'Oro is coming off a win in the Hillsborough Stakes. Prior to that, won the Pegasus World Cup filly and mare turf. She's gone for 4 straight wins for trainer Brad Cox, who won this race in 2021 with Juliet Foxtrot. Destiny d'Oro's regular rider in the last 2 has been Junior Alvarado. He's back for a 3rd mount. Earlier today in the paddock, Tom Leach caught up with him and asked him about the mount Destiny d'Oro, one of the contenders in the Jenny Wiley.
Yeah. Junior Alvarado will be aboard Destiny d'Oro in the Grade 1 Jenny Wiley. Tell me about that last race down at Gulfstream. You know, like last time in Gotham, you know, she was very good. Then, you know, we went to Tampa, and I think the race in Tampa was extremely well too. You know, I think we got a little bit in trouble in that race by the 3 pole, and you know, she still overcome all that to get me out of the spot right there. But you know, I think she's doing very well. You know, and you know, I think the spot, you know, just suit her, and we'll see how she does next Saturday.
What has impressed you in the times you've ridden her?
I think she just has a very quick kick. You know, like she'll place herself forwardly, whatever you want to do. You know, and the things when you give it a go, you know, she's right there, very quick for you. She answers right away. So I think that's, you know, something that you really want to have when you're in the turf.
And I noticed that she ran well when the pace was a little quicker, and she ran well when the pace was a little slower. What is it about her that enables her to do that?
Yeah, I just think she has tactical speed. You know, she breaks out of the gate, and right away, you know, it gives us a chance to put ourselves whatever we want to be, just depending on the pace. And I just think, you know, like I said, she's just a very classy filly.
When you hit the wire last time down at Tampa, did you feel like there was another move forward in her?
Absolutely. You know, like I said, after that race, you know, I thought she shouldn't won the race after all the trouble, and she still, like I said, she still got me out of trouble that day.
How's Sovereignty doing?
It's doing very well, you know, getting ready for the Oakland Handicap, so we're looking forward.
How eager are you to be back on him?
Yes, you know, I can't wait, really. You know, I've been watching him train and see him working out, and just like I say, you know, it's finally the time again to get back on it.
Little extra bonus coverage there of Sovereignty returning next week in the Oakland Handicap. Good questions there from Tom, and some insights there on Destino de Oro for the Jenny Wiley. I've got her picked third in here. I've got it 7, 5, and 8. A little follow-up news today on Sovereignty. Junior Alvarado's, of course, Kentucky Derby winner from last year, Belmont Stakes winner, Travers winner, making his 4-year-old return next week. He's going to go against White Abario, a Breeders' Cup Classic and Pegasus World Cup winner. And also Journalism, the horse who won the Preakness and the horse who chased him home in the Belmont and the Derby last year. Journalism, the connections today, confirming that they are going to Oakland next week. So what a showdown next Saturday in the Oakland Handicap. Looking forward to that, along with the racing of week 3 at Keeneland next weekend. So we'll have an eye on Hot Springs for sure. Anytime you get Sovereignty and Journalism back in action, man, we've been waiting a long time to see that. So that should be great stuff there next week. Okay, let's go from the 9th race to the 10th. It's the co-featured Stone Street Lexington Stakes in race number 10. Mile and the 16th on the main track here. Kentucky Derby prep points on the line, 20 to the winner in here, but it's not going to have an impact on the Kentucky Derby field this year based on the horses who are entered, what their points are already accrued, who's aiming towards the Derby and who's not. But this could have some Preakness impact. Last year we saw Gosger win this race and then darn near upset. We just talked about Journalism winning the Preakness. Remember the Preakness last year when Journalism was all that trouble at the upper stretch? It was Gosger who kicked clear and looked like he was going to win the Preakness Stakes and got nailed on the wire. So we know this Lexington can certainly have an impact on the middle jewel in the Triple Crown. Maybe one of these 11 entrants in this spot we'll be seeing on the 3rd Saturday in May coming up next month. But we've had 10 editions of this race, the Lexington Stakes, since going back to the dirt course. And with the late Kentucky Derby qualifying points and the distance of this race and the 16th pole finish line, this has kind of been a little bit of a scramble every year. Horses that aren't really routers, or horses who weren't fast or horses who were fast but didn't have enough stamina to go the mile and an 1/8 preps and continue on in their various series no matter where they were around the country. They end up in this race, and it becomes a melting pot of a bunch of horses who are fast or horses who can't go that far, or horses who are up-and-comers, and we're going to see how good they are coming out of, you know, maiden and allowance type races. It's caused this race to be a little bit of an anomaly because in mile and the 16th races at Keeneland, you expect speed to be pretty good. You got a short run to the first turn, so speed can save ground on the first turn. You got the 16-pole finish line to bail you out in the stretch, and you don't have to go all the way to the traditional wire. But that has not been the case in this race because it has been overloaded with horses who probably aren't true, excellent, graded stakes routing types. The average winner of this race over the last decade has been almost 5 lengths off the lead after the opening half mile. For a mile and a 16th, that's an incredible closer's angle and edge in this kind of race. So this is the kind of race where even though you might be tempted by some speed, I think you want a horse who can finish. And that's what we're looking for in the Lexington Stakes. So let's take a look at the gambling situation here in the Lexington. It's going to be part of that late $3 late pick 3, the middle leg of that, part of the late pick 4, the late pick 5, how we want to shake it out in this field of 11. Well, trainer Brad Cox has had a lot of success in this race. He's won it in 2024, 2023, 2022, and 2019. 4 times in the last 6 years or so for Brad Cox, 3 of the last 4. He's got the 2 horses in here that I'm just going to take right on top. Confessional, the 10, and Easem, the 9. Easem's got speed. Confessional's the closer in here. And in the profile of this race and the class of Confessional coming out a mile and a 16th, Sam F. Davis against a great horse like Renegade. Last time out against Incredible, who ran back to that really good 2-year-old form in winning the Virginia Derby. Confessional's coming out of the better races. Gosger's jockey, Irad Ortiz, aboard this year. Irad Ortiz and Brad Cox are going crazy winning races, some together, some against each other, some in separate parts of the country, but both of them have dominated the Triple Crown Trail this year. Brad Cox, I think, has won 6 major preps going back to the beginning of the year around the country. Irad Ortiz has won 4. He had 4 Kentucky Derby mounts that he could have taken and picked Renegade amongst those. So I just think Confessional, it's Cox, it's Ortiz, it's the classiest running line, and a horse with a come-from-behind style that fits this race. There are horses in here who we don't know just how far they want to go. The Hell We Did, the 7's one of those. It's a horse who's got a lot of attention in our handicapper selectors box. You see Scott picking the 7 on top. You see Tom picking the 7 on top, coming out of 6 furlong races in New Mexico and Oklahoma, 2 for 3 lifetime. This horse was supposed to make it to the Springboard Mile last year, but didn't get that far to December. They had to pull back on the campaign and get a late start now in March with The Hell We Did. Why was he headed to the Springboard Mile? Well, his older half-brother, Senor Buscador, won that race, and that was supposed to be the plan for Todd Fincher and owner Joe Peacock. So this was a horse, The Hell We Did, that has a lot of promise about him. Again, with that pedigree, he's gotten better with all 3 starts that he's run, but how far will he go? He's only run 6 furlongs in all 3 starts to this point. And again, we've talked about this race with the late-running horses who have had success in the Lexington. There will be other speed in here. The 10 races that we've had of the Lexington back on dirt, all 10 of the winners came out of route preps. Route races are a mile or longer, and 9 of the 10 horses came out of races that were around 2 turns last time. Some horses in 1-turn miles like we see in this race. I mean, if you look at the horses who come out of 2-turn route races in this race, it's only one Corona de Oro. It is Mr. T, the 5, who's coming out of a race in November against Indiana Breds at Horseshoe Indianapolis. And the other horse to come out of a dirt 2-turn race is Confessional, the 10. I've got the 10 and the 1 as the horses to watch in here as far as coming out of the 2-turn dirt races. Easem won by 19 lengths at Colonial Downs on the undercard of the Virginia Derby Day program. Some horses run big races at Colonial Downs and don't repeat them other places. That was a 1-turn mile there. We haven't seen Easem go around 2 turns, but this horse is really fast. So if you take the horses stretching out sprint the route like Decisive Win, who comes out of a super fast race out at Santa Anita last time, you got Decisive Win with a ton of speed in here. Easem's got a ton of speed. The Hell We Did coming out of the 6 furlong races. This just, to me, sets up for a closer in here, and I think Confessional's the one. In fact, in terms of a multi-race wager in here, I would single Confessional 7-2 in the morning line. Easem is actually the 2-1 morning line favorite in here, according to Nick Tamero. Big buyer speed figure of 87 compared to 82 for Confessional in their last races, and that 19-length margin, 19-plus length margin, is going to attract a lot of eyeballs. You got Flavian Pratt on the 9 for Brad Cox. You got Irad Ortiz on the 10, but again, I like Confessional's deeper resume, 2-turn experience, and the profile of this race going to off-the-pace types. So give me the 10 over the 9 and the 1 here in the Lexington Stakes, co-feature on the program. The Hell We Did, top choice in there for Tom and Scott. Kim is going with the 9 Easem. Confessional gets a little bit of a nibble with everybody, 2nd or 3rd. Otherwise, I think he's going to get the whole banana in here, and he'll be the horse to beat. So the more I looked at it, I wasn't really wild about the pick, but the more I handicap this race, the more I look at the history of it, I kind of feel better about Confessional than I did, say, a day ago when I first started doing the pre-handicapping on this card, and I think Confessional is going to be the one to beat. Again, what a season for Brad Cox in these 3-year-old prep races, going all the way back to New Year's Day. I think he won the Jerome and the Mucho Macho Man on New Year's Day, and it hasn't stopped. I mean, he went through and Commandment winning the Fountain of Youth in the Florida Derby. Brad Cox last week just unleashing further ado to another double-digit win here at Keeneland. And, of course, Brad Cox had, who else did he have on the trail? Full Effort winning the big race at Turfway Park in the Jeff Ruby. He's had just a tremendous run with his 3-year-olds this season. I think that continues here with Commandment, and he's got Easem as one of his extra cards to play in the back pocket as well. Not too shabby of a hand for Brad here in the Lexington Stakes. Let's go to the final race on the program. It'll be the Toyota Super High 5 race, also the final leg of the Keeneland Turf Pick 3, and my final key play on this card. One of my best bets on the program coming up here with number 6, West End Kid. We're going to go out with a winner in this particular spot. Will Walden trains, Tyler Gaffleone rides. Again, just like race number 5 earlier, we talked about how these races were split. The maiden special weight mile and a 16th was a race 5, race 11 split division. We're looking for the Gulfstream horses in these particular spots to have the most success. West End Kid, the only Gulfstream runner in here. And you say, well, okay, are you playing him just because he's from Gulfstream? That's part of it. You got to like the horse, though, as well as fitting the trend. And West End Kid has one career start, rallied from 11th of 12 to finish 4th, beaten just a length that day. Blinkers on now in the second career start. Wasn't bet in the debut, so outran some decent horses with a troubled trip. You get Gaffleone aboard this time, and West End Kid over the turf here. A Twirling Candy, the Candy Ride, that whole line. The Candy Rides run on the turf here. They run on the synthetic when it was the Polytrack era, and they run well on the dirt. That Candy line, Twirling Candy running line, pedigree line, just does so well here at Keeneland in all spots. So I like the 9 in here, West End Kid, quite a bit. 6-1, or the 6 horse, West End Kid at 9-2 in the morning line. I think an excellent price there. Number 4, here's Johnny, coming back off an October layoff. We last saw this one in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf. Prior to that, ran second in the Pilgrim, second in the With Anticipation. This is a 5-start maiden now, coming back off a 3 straight graded stakes. Going to get hammered in the wagering, probably 7-2 in the morning line. Let's try to knock that one off with the better price. Again, some of these horses coming back off of Breeders' Cup layoffs and big 2-year-old campaigns, they don't advance at age 3. They don't get better. They stay the same. Some of them, the winter kind of doesn't crank them up for the next season. And so I'm going to expect that here's Johnny is going to be a horse who probably either needs the race or is going to flatline off of his 2-year-old form. If he moves forward, he's probably the winner, but I'm going to take my shot that he won't. West End Kid, the 6 in the nightcap, going to be my top choice in here. Scott's also got West End Kid on top. Here's Johnny, the top pick for the other handicappers, Tom Leach and for Kim Nelson. If you're looking at multi-race wagers, 6 and 4 could be 2 ways to go in here, but I think they're both going to be coming from well off the pace, and I'm going to take my shot against. Here's Johnny. I'm locking down on West End Kid. So if you're talking about this pick 6, I think you've got really potential horses to single in Lush Lips in race number 9 as we go down the list, Confessional in race 10, and West End Kid in race 11. I like all 3 of them. Now, the odds are going to pick 3 straight winners on top as singles. Look, the deck is stacked against you in pulling that off. But in budgeting for this pick 6, I don't think you're spending a lot in that portion of it, And so you've got a key play for me in race number 6, but it's not one that's a lockdown single kind. I think we need to get some coverage in there for sure. Noble Confessor could be a speed horse in race number 7 that's worthy of a short one. If all of these horses that look kind of logical or look pretty good get beat and we get a couple chaotic prices, then you can have a massive payoff in the pick 6. No question about that. But if the horses run like they look, and in some of these situations where there might be some singles to kind of lock down on, this might not be a huge paying pick 6 in the terms of, life-changing score of 6 figures. But with a carryover 154,000, they're going to bet probably 4 or 5x into it. It's going to get another at least 750 maybe bet into it. We're probably looking at a $900,000 pool in the pick 6. And even if you're hitting a rather chalky one, this is one that you might not have to put a lot into, and you're getting back 4 or 5 grand. And that could be, it's not easy to hit 6 winners in a row. I'm not trying to downplay that at all. But I don't know that you go crazy on a ticket here and you feel like you've got to get to, several hundred, several $1,000s on a pick 6 ticket. This is one where I think you can have a fighter's chance without putting in a massive ticket if you have stronger opinions. And I've got 2 opinions in the pick 6 that I like as key plays. I also think Lush Lips and Confessional look like very solid stakes horses on this program. They can all get beat for sure, but if you're lining up a ticket and figuring out, can I play the pick six? Some days you look at it and say, there's just no way I could play this pick six and have any puncher's chance with the budget I have. I think even a small budget player worth probably a little ticket on the pick six on Saturday if your opinions line up with it. That's going to wrap up the handicapping for tonight. I want to remind you that tomorrow night we'll be back with a preview of the Sunday card. The Sunday program is going to feature the Giants Causeway Stakes, some Philly Mare sprinters going at it in that one to wrap up week number 2. So we'll be back at 8:30 Eastern tomorrow night to handicap all of that to end the week. Now, between now and then, be sure to sign up for my Substack, free publishing software, Substack. Go to jeremyplonk.substack.com, and you'll get my daily email newsletter sent to you. Updated picks and after scratches and changes come out at Keeneland, usually sent in the 11 o'clock hour after we know who's in, who's out, and any kind of weather conditions and changes we might have to our opinions, any updated information that we get included in that Substack. So be sure to check that out. It's free. And not only when the Keeneland meet is over, I also have Triple Crown information in that Substack. The Countdown to the Crown report was sent out today. If you didn't get the Countdown to the Crown report, go to countdowntothecrown.com. Check that out as we look ahead towards the Triple Crown races. Kentucky Derby now just, 3 weeks away. Have a great night, everybody. We'll be back tomorrow and knock 'em dead at Keeneland as we look forward to a 2-stakes day with a pick six carryover of $154,000 plus as we go into the Saturday action. Take care, everybody.